the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens, le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida TV. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro, the Sick Podcast on this Tuesday, May 6th. Thanks for watching on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. Very much appreciated in all transparency. This podcast tonight was pre-recorded a little bit earlier. Laval Rocket playing Game 4 versus Cleveland Monsters at Place Belle in Laval. Jacob Fowler with the starting goal. By now, you probably know the final score, but Brian Wilde and I wanted to watch it. We also wanted to watch Washington, Carolina at 7 p.m. and get ready to watch Vegas, Edmonton at 9:30 p.m. That's why this podcast was pre-recorded a little bit earlier. The Sick Podcast brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America. Driven to be different. Also brought to you in part by Playground. The Moneymaker Tour is coming to Playground. Playground is set to host the Moneymaker Tour from May 7th to May 20 with over $1.4 million in guarantees. This is your chance to experience world-class poker alongside the tour's namesake, 2003 WSOP main event champion, Chris Moneymaker. But that's not all. Chris Moneymaker himself will be at Playground playing in events and hosting an exclusive meetup game on Saturday, May 17 at 4 p.m. where you can take a seat and battle with the legend. Poker history will be made at Playground. Hey, isn't that pretty cool? I think that's pretty cool. Without further ado, let's bring in Brian Wilde. Brian, how are you?
I am very well, Tony. How are you?
Very well. Just trying to, for whatever reason, charge my my laptop right now, which this should have been done beforehand, but I don't know why.
Do you want me to dance for you while you do that?
You don't have to dance. All right. I think I got it.
Oh, good, because I my dancing days are over.
What a nightmare this is. This is what happens when you tell everyone in the house, don't touch my laptop. And they touch it. But we're all good now, Brian. That's the good news. All right, okay. One of the things that we've done in previous years at around this time of year, when the Montreal Canadiens season is over, is actually do report cards. And if you figure 20-plus players, 20-plus report cards over the next 20-plus podcast days, and of course, if there's going to be other topics that are going to come up, we're obviously going to bring them up and we're going to discuss. But today we decided to start, why not, with the captain. Let's bring up his picture and let's bring up the report card. There you have it. Montreal Canadiens report card. Name, Nick Suzuki, position center. Games played 82, goals 30, assists 59, points 89, plus minus plus 19. We're going to ask you to give a grade between A and F. We have different charts that we're going to bring up. Why don't we do this and bring up a chart of the point getters on the Montreal Canadiens to show where Nick Suzuki is compared to other players on the team. There you have it. Nick Suzuki's 30 goals, 59 assists for 89 points. Number one on the team, obviously. Cole Caulfield, number 2 with 70 points. Lane Hudson, number 3 with 66 points. Slavkovsky at 51. So I need you to think about this, okay? Caulfield, the second leading point getter, is 19 points behind Suzuki. The third leading point getter on the team is a defenseman who finished with 23 points behind Suzuki. And the third leading point getter on the team for forwards actually finished 38 points behind Suzuki. How about this one? The fourth leading point getter for forwards on the team, the fifth leading point getter on the team, finished 51 points behind Nick Suzuki. When you look at it that way, Brian, we all know he had a great season. But when you look at how much he pulls away from his teammates, the numbers are incredible.
Stunning. The numbers are absolutely stunning, and I think you'd be hard-pressed to look at the other 31 teams in the league and see such disparity between the top guy and the next guy, or the third guy and the fourth guy. The numbers speak for themselves, and they are more improved than his best season by even a large margin. To go up by 12, that's a large margin, at his age, 25, to jump that much from year to year. A lot of people say you're finished developing at that age. He's obviously not finished developing because he went up another 12 points. And I think he could have hit 100 with the right line mates. And if Uri can play a full season instead of, as Uri himself said, start in February.
Well, and once again, he really pulled up. And it shows two things, right? It shows A, Suzuki's excellence. And B, what we've talked about all season long, they could use more scoring. They could have used a second line. You see it there in the stats, right? Suzuki first, Caulfield second, Lane Hudson, the defenseman, third, Slafkovsky fourth, who's obviously part of the first line with Suzuki and Caulfield, and then Brendan Gallagher, who was part of a line with Dvorak and Josh Anderson. You see it right there. No second line for the Montreal Canadiens, which also has you admire Suzuki's season even more because he wasn't insulated. He didn't have anyone to take those big minutes off of him and help him, and those tough matchups to help him. He was alone on an island, really, Brian.
And that makes it remarkable, too. When you look at that trip through Christmas, where he had to face some of the best centers in the game and won all of those games, that was one of the two big season-changing moments of the season. There was that one in December, and then there was the post Four Nations moment, that 2-3 weeks where they put it all together. I think in that, though, it's going to take some memory, but he had to face Nathan McKinnon in that run. He had to face Jack Eichel in that run. They were down in Florida, so he beat Barkov in that run, and he beat Braden Point in that run around Christmas. I mean, that's just incredible. Those are some of the best centers in the game, and he was beating them with no insulation, as you said. So there's so much to pick out of excellence for Nick Suzuki. He's so underrated.
4 nights after he beat Jack Eichel in that run, he beat Nathan McKinnon in that run too.
Yeah.
You remember they lost in Chicago on the Friday night, and then they went into Colorado and they won by a score of 2-1. Jakob Dobeš stood on his head, and the Canadiens won in a shootout. Yeah, it was just, and then the Four Nations post too. He went on an incredible run. He was at 2 points per game for a couple of weeks there. He was the top scoring player in the entire National Hockey League for the 3 weeks that followed the Four Nations break. There wasn't a single player better than him in the entire National Hockey League for that admittedly 3-week window. Is not a whole season, but it just shows what a run he can go on and what excellence he brings to the rink. And you know what, we love him here, you and I and everybody in Montreal. We're going to give him a high grade when we give that grade out, and justifiably so. But I'll tell you what, around the league, he's just not appreciated yet like he should be. Didn't get an invite to Four Nations at all. I think that's a big insult considering where he is in the overall scoring and what he did for the team. And I have a graphic of myself when you look at the plus minus on the team that I sent to Sammy and Yellow as well. Like, he has the same, clarity there in terms of where he was at plus 19. The next guy was plus 9 on a team, Tony, that had a minus 29 on it. Let's see if we can bring up
21 on it.
Yeah, let's see if we can bring up that graphic now, plus minuses on the Montreal Canadiens. We can. Thank you very much for that at Master Control. Nick Suzuki, plus 19. Cole Caulfield, plus 9. Caden Gooley, plus 6. Carrier and Slafkovsky, plus 4. Struble, plus 2. Demidov and Evans, plus 1. RV Pedard, who only played 1 game, was even. And the rest are minus players.
Yeah, including a Doc at minus 29, a Newhook that played the entire season at minus 21. I just did the first page, but if you looked at the second page, this was a team with a differential goals for and against that was in the negative. Yet the guy who played the best players all season long
incredible managed
in the middle of the ice, where you got to be a genius in there to make the right decisions all the time, carry the puck up the ice, win the zone, be smart defensively, play a 200-foot game, plus 19, which is a really good number in the NHL. Never mind on a Midland hockey team for the most part with a negative differential. You can't say enough about Nick Suzuki in my mind. What a season he had, and I think he still has more left in him, Tony.
Cheers to that. And speaking of which, Bittt Tibi launched their new Ultra Lager, refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for the summer, with only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can, available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. It's ultra light and ultra refreshing. Brian, you made reference to the Four Nations tourney and the fact that Nick Suzuki was not invited by Canada, and those 2 weeks he was off, maybe somewhere taking the sun. He talked about benefiting from that time off. Let's hear from Nick Suzuki.
I think it helped a little bit for sure. A little motivation. Got to rest during that break when all those guys, were playing. So, watching the games at home sucked a little bit, but it gave me an opportunity to recover and really come out of the gates firing. So, it really helped our team. I feel like we got everyone got a break. Except Monty and Patty, but those guys got good experience out of that too. So it was a good time for me to recover and everything, and be ready to go after and for a big playoff push.
It was a good time for him to recover. Now, Brian, let's backtrack for a second here. Let's take a look at that Four Nations break and when the Montreal Canadiens came out of it, because the gold medal game where the Four Nations face-off final between Canada and the U.S. was on Thursday, February 20th. 2 days later, the NHL action resumed. I think there were 15 games on schedule that night, right? If memory served me well. And one of which was the Canadiens in Ottawa. And the Canadiens won that game by a score of 5-2. But at that time, we ended up finding out later on that either it was before the break or during the break that there was a conversation that was had with Nick Suzuki and Montreal Canadiens general manager Kent Hughes. And Kent Hughes is the one who shared the story. And he said that Suzuki walked into his office and asked him not to trade Savard, Dvorak, and Armia. He said, don't trade away our unrestricted free agents. And Kent Hughes, who could have traded them and stockpiled a few more draft picks, maybe not great ones, but he would have had a couple, said, Nick, if you're going to come into my office and you're going to ask me for something, well, then I'm going to ask you to put the team on your back, lead that team, put up offensive numbers, and give me a great reason why I shouldn't trade those players. You talked about his next 5 games, 5-0 for the Canadiens, 13 points for Nick Suzuki, in a 5-2 win in Ottawa on the Saturday night, a 4-0 win versus Carolina on the Tuesday night in Montreal, a 4-3 win in overtime versus the San Jose Sharks on the 27th of February. Then make your way into the month of March, a 4-2 win in Buffalo on a Saturday night, and a 4-3 win versus the Buffalo Sabres in overtime on a Monday night. And by the way, he picked up a ton of points. Once again, 13 points in those 5 games with the Canadiens going 5-0. So here's a guy, Brian, besides everything we're going to take a look at and all the numbers, carried the team on his back and said, follow my lead. The Canadiens made it to the playoffs. And that's what captains are supposed to do.
What a lot of guts, too, to do that, right? Because you have to have a lot of self-belief that you can carry the team. And you have to have a lot of belief as the captain in all of your mates that they can get it done, especially when before the break, they were limping badly. Lane Hudson was looking tired. The numbers were bad for Suzuki himself. I believe he had 2 points in about 8 games. They won only 1 of the 9 before the break. They were looking like a team that was limping. And he still walked into that office and said, believe in me, Believe in us as a group. Believe we can get this done. And credit to Kent Hughes, too, for not laughing, considering the way they were playing. 1 win in 9
You're right.
into the break.
You're
Give me
right.
credit. It was like, are you kidding me, Nick? You see your record? You won 1 of their last 9 games. And then they completely turned it around. And then Nick was front and center in what I think was the night they made the playoffs. And it wasn't on the last night against Carolina. The night they made the playoffs was back-to-back against Florida. 7 seconds are left, and Nick Suzuki is backdoor for a Hudson pass to tie the game against the Panthers at the Bell Center. And then in overtime, that unbelievably gorgeous wraparound for the game winner. And then he shows that celebration for the first time going to a knee, which became something we saw more and more as the season progressed. That was the night I think they made the playoffs, where they said, wow, we just beat the Stanley Cup champions back-to-back, and Nick Suzuki led that 2 points that I think gave everybody the faith and the belief, and kind of that thing that hits sometimes in sports where you go, hey, I think we're destined to do this.
Do you remember what happened before the Canadians won the first of those 2 back-to-back games that you just talked about versus Florida? That first game versus Florida was a 4-2 win. It was a Sunday afternoon game in Florida. Do you remember what happened the 5 games before that?
I feel like they lost against lousy teams a couple times.
They lost,
in my memory. Yeah.
Okay, they lost 5 straight. So the Canadians on Thursday, March 20th, went into that game versus the Islanders. You remember that game that they lost in overtime versus the Islanders, right?
Right. They had a couple OT losses in there.
That was a game that they were down by a score of 3-1. They tied it up 3-3. And then Bo Horvat scores in overtime. The Canadians lose 4-3 in overtime. 2 nights later, the Canadians host the Colorado Avalanche. The Canadians were down in that hockey game, and they were down by a score of 3-0. They
Big
were
comeback.
down by a score of 4-1, and they tie it at 4 with 2 goals in the third period by Slavkovsky and Dvorak before losing to Colorado in a shootout. 3 nights after that, the Montreal Canadiens are set to go on a 4-game road trip in 6 nights. And they say the first game of the road trip is the most important one, right? They get obliterated by a score of 6-1 in St. Louis. 2 nights later, they lose 6-4 in Philadelphia. The next night, playing 2-2 and 3-4, they lose 4-1 in Carolina. And by the time they played Florida on that Sunday afternoon, Brian, they were playing their 4th road game in 5.5 days with travel from Montreal to St. Louis to Philly, Philly to Carolina, Carolina to Florida. And everyone, like I said, bet the house on the Panthers. But I said bet the house before the road trip even started, because I looked at it and I said the law of physics says 4 games in 5.5 days would travel to all of them. You're not going to win the last one. They won it, Brian. They won it.
And I remember we had a podcast together, you and I, just before that road trip started. And I think you called it the key to the season. If they can get out of this road trip in the mix still, they'll make a good run. And then we talked about the fact that Florida game looked like it was an impossibility. And that was probably one of the shocking results of the year. But for me, the moment that changed everything was the next night, I want to say, or was it Tuesday?
Yeah, it was the Tuesday, Brian. You know what was amazing about that game? And I know you remember this, right? Who tied the game up with 8.5 seconds left in regulation?
Yeah.
Suzuki.
It was Nick.
And who won the game 29 seconds into overtime?
With the wraparound.
Suzuki with the wraparound. Yeah. And so you say that for you, the turning point of the season was those 2 wins versus the Florida Panthers. And in those 2 wins versus the Florida Panthers, I mean, on the Tuesday in Montreal, Suzuki was the story of the game. Once again, tying it up with 8.5 seconds left and then scoring the game winner with 29 seconds left. But that game that they won in Florida, who scored the game-winning goal, Brian?
What was it, Nick?
It was Nick Suzuki who gave the Canadiens.
I don't remember that.
He gave the Canadiens a 3-2 lead, 2 minutes and 2 seconds into period number 3, because they went into period number 3, tied at 2. Liney opened the scoring. Reinhart tied it. Slavkovsky gave the Canadiens the lead. Seth Jones tied it. 2:02 into period number 3. Nick Suzuki puts the Canadiens up. And 1 minute and 44 seconds left in regulation, Brendan Gallagher scored in an empty net. So in the 2 games that you identified as where the Canadiens made the playoffs, Nick Suzuki scored the game-winning goal in both games.
And the Canadiens took 8 points out of a possible 8 points on the season against the defending Stanley Cup champions.
Yeah.
And who play a heavy game, a big game. And if you can't play big, you can't beat them. And they took 8 out of 8, and they only made the playoffs by 2 points. So essentially, they made the playoffs because they managed to dominate the defending Stanley Cup champions. That's how weird sports can be, right?
Pretty remarkable, yeah. Who's going to, speaking of sports, and Brian talked about the defending Stanley Cup champions, who's going to win the Stanley Cup this year? Well, go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses. The Florida Panthers, by the way, are down 1-0. Scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account, redeem your welcome offer. Offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offers not available in Ontario. Must be 18 years of age and older. And please play responsibly. I want to do this. I want to bring up once again the point totals on the Montreal Canadiens to show Suzuki compared to other players. Okay. His 89 points, first on the Habs. His 30 goals, second on the Habs. His 59 assists, second on the Habs. Now, once again, his 30 goals, second on the Habs behind Caulfield's 37. His 59 assists, second on the Habs behind Lane Hudson's 60. Now I want to go to Brian's graphic of the plus minus, where Nick Suzuki led the Montreal Canadiens with a plus 19. Okay, so that plus 19, number 1 on the Habs, plus 10, more than Cole Caulfield, who finished with plus 9. So more than double on the guy who finished second. And once again, as Brian said, playing against the best players on the other team. So now, here's the grand finale. This one here is really something, okay? Last year, Nick Suzuki finished with 77 points. I remember taking a look at where he was vis-a-vis other centermen in the National Hockey League, Brian, and he was in the top 15 of centers playing center. And I say that because sometimes NHL.com puts in centers, but they're actually playing on the wing. All right. So, for example, like a year ago, Barzal played on the same line with Nelson and Horvat. 3 centers, they're playing on the same line. For example, Reinhart could come out as a center on some lists, but he actually plays wing with Barkov at center and Verhaeghe on the other wing, right? And so there's Martin Necas, for whatever reason, comes up as a center, but he actually plays on the wing with Nathan McKinnon and Arturi Lehkonen. Okay, but now here's the deal. So a year ago, Nick Suzuki was top 15 and possession in the offensive zone for centers, in points for centers, and in goals for centers. Top 15. 1 year later, how did Nick Suzuki do compared to all the other centers in the league? He was 6th in points, Brian. Wow. 6th. McKinnon, 116. Wow. Draisaitl, who played, by the way, several games on a wing with McDavid at 106. McDavid at 100. Eichel at 94. Crosby at 91. And Nick Suzuki at 89. I don't know what is more like. I don't know what's even like more incredible on this whole list. The fact that Connor McDavid picked up 100 points and he missed 15 games, or Sidney Crosby picked up 91 points, missing 2 games at 37 years old. But I have to tell you that how many people would have bet on Nick Suzuki, Brian, finishing 6th among centers before the season started? How many? Not many, I don't think.
None. And look at the list, too, in terms of who was isolated. Nathan McKinnon obviously has a ton of support, and also Cale Makar to help him as well. Leon has the support of Connor. Connor has the support of Leon in terms of matchups. Jack Eichel plays on a really strong team. And when you look at that list of 6, it's Crosby and Suzuki that have to carry the load for their team in terms of matchups. The other 4 guys had a lot of support from the strength of their team and their second line center.
I'm gonna do something for you here. You looking at that list?
Yeah.
Yeah. 1,
Yeah.
3, 1, 2, 1, 13.
Yeah.
I know you know what I'm talking about.
1, 3.
1,
No, I don't know.
2, 1,
Yeah.
13. Their draft order.
Oh, okay.
Nathan
they
McKinnon
won.
went first.
Yeah.
Draisaitl went third. McDavid went first. Eichel went second in the
Second.
McDavid draft. Crosby went first.
Wow.
Suzuki
Yeah, I
went
love
13th.
it. I love it. No, I didn't catch it. I was thinking
Isn't that
about
something?
where they were sitting in terms of goals, assists, and then you said 13. I went, okay, I'm completely wrong. Yeah, that's unbelievable. Which takes us back, of course, that when he was traded from Vegas and Marc Bergevin, was trying to make that deal, and they said, well, you can't have Cody Glass. No way. He's going to be a superstar. You can't have Cody Glass, but we'll give you Nick Suzuki. So that worked out when you don't get the guy you want. That was the same as Thomas Plekanec and Balai was his name.
Yeah, for Alex Kovalev.
Yeah, for Alex Kovalev. Balai.
Yeah.
They took him.
Joseph
he had like
Balai,
4 more points. Yeah, he had 4 more points than Plekanec. So I think it was Gainey that said, okay, we'll take the one you want. So they took Balai.
And since then, Cody Glass went from the Vegas Golden Knights
from everywhere
to the Nashville Predators, to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and to the New Jersey Devils.
Yeah.
Like
And
in the last year, Cody Glass has played for 3 teams.
And he still hasn't figured it out. And he's a great case study in that you just don't know, because he was taken, I want to say 5th and 6th and Suzuki 13th. And everybody's and Glass kind of has the same footprint as Kirby Dach, really.
You talk about
and
case study. Nolan Patrick went number 2 when Heiskanen and Makar went 3 and 4.
There you go. Like it's not science. It's an art form, and you hope to get lucky. You hope to get the Demidov. Oh,
Mind
and
you,
also
he had some concussions, though, we have to say, right? But
absolutely. There are a lot of reasons for it. Doc's got knee issues. I mean, it doesn't always work out. There can be many, many reasons for it. But back to that list that you were talking about, I was looking at some metrics. I gave you one more. We can put up that graphic later, but there were ones I didn't give you. But Suzuki was like 57 Corsi. He was behind only one guy. He was 57 Fenwick. He was behind only one guy, a different guy. I think once it was Cole, and once I think it was Lane. I'm not positive, but he was second all the time. Corsi, Fenwick, and goals expected. I mean, there isn't a statistic, on the team that Suzuki wasn't either 1 or 2. Really, I don't think there's even one that you can find. And if we could put up Sammy
Money Puck?
the Money Puck one. I really like this one. I don't know if that's big enough for everybody to see, but I think I really like this because number 1 in the league was the line in goals for. Now this is a 5-on-5 thing here, right? This isn't an overall. So like on an overall, you're trying to be a 100-point line, and they made it to 85. The year before, they did 93. I think they're going to be a 100-point line, but that includes your power play and shorthanded goals too. But just in your 5-on-5 play, there you see they're number 1 in the league with 49 goals, Tony. Wow. Number 1 in the entire National Hockey League in goals 5-on-5. But not only that, look at the goals against, 29. And
Amazing.
now let's look at the differential. The differential is that 48 or 49?
It's 49.
40. The differential is 20. Now, do a search down to all the best lines in the NHL. That line not only had the most goals for, it also has the best differential. And so Spencer Carberry wasn't blowing smoke when he was talking about how good this line is. This was an amazing line this year.
That's unbelievable. To think that they had a better production and better differential than a line of Scheifele, Velarde, and Kyle Connor. Better than Braden Point, Jake Gensel, and Nikita Kucherov. Yeah.
Theirs was 18. The other was 12. And theirs was 20, the differential.
Better than Matthews, Marner, and Nice.
Yeah, they're all there. All
Unreal.
The best lines in the league. And the best one is the Canadiens line. And that, Tony, was by themselves.
Yeah.
All those other lines, they had support.
Yeah.
They had easier matchups.
Brian, speaking of best.
Yeah. Where are you going, buddy? I don't know how to do a show without you. Oh,
Brian, the best,
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Bomboloni boss, Brian.
I
Now
gotta go to
available.
the Metro now.
Well, I
gotta run to get 'em.
had to go in my freezer, as a matter of fact, to pull them out. Now available in all metros in Quebec. Their website has a store locator to find the grocery store nearest you. Chocolate fudge, dulce de leche, and pastry cream available. Just thaw for 2 hours and enjoy. So if I would know that Brian is Brian gives me a call and says, "Hey, Tony, I'm coming over in a couple of hours." I take these out of the freezer. I take them out of the box.
I'm gonna go to Summerled Metro, and not far from me.
There we go.
6 block cycle. I'm going there.
I'll take them
I'm gonna
out
thaw
like
a
that.
couple, and I'm gonna eat.
That. And I'll just let them thaw like that.
Mhm.
And you and I will be eating like we're going to the electric chair in 10 minutes. It'll be a beautiful thing. It'll be. Really
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna cycle down. I'm gonna get some at my the Metro in Summerlid. You know NDG at all, Tony?
I definitely know it very well. Okay, so now with that said, the only thing left to talk about, of course, is the playoffs, where Nick Suzuki did not lead the Montreal Canadiens in points in the playoffs. It was Lane Hudson who had 5 points, and Cole Caulfield led the Canadiens forwards with 4 points, and Suzuki was in a category of several players that had 2 points. What did you think of his playoff? Does it affect your report card whatsoever? Because for me, we talked about the fact that Suzuki was able to do everything he did during the season without a second line. And going into the playoffs, I said, if you can't get production from your second line, it'll catch up with you. And it did. So, look, the game plan was obvious. It was to hit the Canadiens defensemen every chance they got and to try and contain Suzuki's line as much as possible, who, by the way, still ended up accounting for 7 of the Montreal Canadiens' 12 goals in the playoffs. So
That's what I was just about to say.
Yeah.
Is as much as you say, okay, they only got 2 points, and the line didn't, get a point per game or a goal per game. Overall, they were involved in, 7 of the 12 goals when you include the power play.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how can you criticize him for that? Especially when, like, in a series, you obviously, as a head coach, Carbery's got time to isolate, game plan out. And that makes a big difference when there's no second line, when you game plan one of the lines that is the only one that can kill you.
Okay, so now, report card grade A to F. Obviously, A being the best grade that you can get. Brian Wilde, tell me your grade for Nick Suzuki and tell me why.
All right, here's my grade, and here's the way I thought about it. If I said to myself, okay, if you give the guy an A, what could he have done better? And I try to think of what he could have done better. And 77 to 89 points, only the second player this entire century to beat the point per game mark. Kovalev's 84 in 2008. So that's a hell of a thing to eclipse on a team that never gets a lot of points. So he's best there. He reaches plateaus all over the place. He faces all the best players. He takes them to the playoffs. He acts like a captain in terms of walking into Ken Hughes's office and in leading them after the Four Nations break. He's got a little bit of a bitterness about not being chosen there, like he described in that clip. And I can't think of a thing that I would look at and say, he didn't bring it. You know what I mean? I can't think of a thing he didn't do or he should have done better. Like even a little better. Okay, there's a perfect world scenario, no, right?
So you're giving him an A?
I'm giving him an A. Is an A plus available, Tony?
It is. I found something.
Okay, give it to me.
Okay. I want you to take a look at top 2 line centers now, by all means, right? Nobody's perfect, and there's a lot of things that Suzuki does a lot better than a lot of the players that I'm going to name you. But somebody close to the situation said to me, yeah, maybe Nick Suzuki should have been on Team Canada at the Four Nations. But if he really wants to go next year, he's got to be able to do with more consistency one thing. And I said, what's that? Win faceoffs. I want to talk to you about top 2 line centermen, okay, across the league. The best ones in the faceoff circle. Trocheck, 59.3%. Tavares, 58.3%. JT Miller, 58.3. Bo Horvat, 58.2. Anze Kopitar, 57.2. Sidney Crosby, 57. Austin Matthews, 56.8. Alexander Barkov, 56.8. Ryan O'Reilly, 55.7. O'Reilly obviously is a drop from the rest, but Sebastian Aho, 55.3. Robert Thomas, 54.8. Dylan Larkin, 54.5. These are some of the best centermen
11
in the National Hockey League, Brian. And there's
What's
Leon
Nick's number?
Draisaitl. Leon Draisaitl, 54.4. Rupe Hintz, 53.9. Dylan Strome, 53.7. And is there other ones that are probably in Suzuki kind of category in terms of players? Brock Nelson, good player, but nowhere close at 52.1. But anyway, Nick Suzuki's number, I think, was just above 51. It was 51.6. 51.6. Okay. Jesperi Kotkaniemi had a 51.8. Chandler Stevenson had a 51.6 as well, because Zibanejad had a 52. Brian,
and the best on the Canadians was 57, which was
Christian Dvorak. Brian, the only area in which I'll drop him a notch is I think there's room for improvement in the face-off circle.
Yeah,
okay?
So I'm going to give him an A instead of an A+.
So I'm going to give him an A instead of an A+. And you and I will agree on that. And I think there's no better way to end the Sick Podcast tonight. Enjoy what is of Edmonton, Vegas, which started about, I don't know, by the time people are watching this, probably about 45 minutes ago. We'll talk to you soon, Brian Wilde. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony.
Special thanks to Betway, to Bomboloni Boss, to Bittt, to Tibi, to Playground, to Energy Transportation Group, and Sammy and Agnello at Master Control. And thank you to all of you who watched the Sick Podcast tonight. Once again, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, and you can listen to us on all social media platforms. I'll be back tomorrow night, same time, same place. It's the Sick Podcast. I'm Marinaro.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaVie.tv, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.